Welcome. I am Devin Sloan, Secretary of the Oro Valley Historical Society. And I'm glad to see you all here today. This is going to be a fun afternoon. They may not think so, but we are thrilled that Jim Williams is one of our past presidents, our current historian and author of Oro Valley, the first 50 years. If you all haven't read it, you should. Good stuff in here. Anyway, the Historical Society this month is honoring Women's History Month every Saturday from 9 to noon at the Push House Museum at Steam Pump Ranch, really? At Steam Pump Ranch. We would love to see you. Go to the farmer's market and then just walk a couple hundred feet south to the Push House Museum and see amazing women in Oro Valley, including me. We'd love to see you there, and look for us in the parade on April 6th.
Okay. Great. Okay. Okay, welcome again. My name is Jim Williams. I've been the chair of the speakers program for a number of years for the Historical Society. And this year, we decided to have a series of panels and presentations related to the 50th anniversary of the town. And last month, we had a presentation of community leaders. Next month on April 8th, and there are flyers in the back. On April 8th, at the same time, 2 o'clock here, we will have some of the people who were involved in the very early years of the town. And of course, today we are lucky to have 3 of the former and current mayors of the town. We have on my far right, Dr. Satish Hiremath, who is a mayor for 2 terms. Joe Winfield on my immediately right, the current mayor serving his 2nd term, and Paul Loomis in the middle, who served 3 different terms. And I think he's the only mayor who was elected both by the council and the public, correct?
No, I was never elected by the council.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right, get out.
Okay. So I'm going to be asking some questions. We're going to go probably till about 3. And we're hoping then for a few questions, perhaps from the audience to finish up. I'm going to ask everybody up here to kind of keep your answers to a minute or 2 if you can. I know you have a lot of war stories to tell, but my first question, and I'm going to kind of hit each person and move across, but I'll start with Mayor Winfield. The question is, when and why did you move to Oro Valley? What got you here?
All right, thank you, Jim. Our family moved to Oro Valley in 1996. A job brought us here. I work for the National Park Service. I'm a landscape architect by profession. National Park Service happens to be the largest employer of landscape architects. At the time I was working at Redwood National Park, I accepted a job here in Arizona with the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program. Marianne and I, at that time, had 6 children. Our oldest was 15. Our youngest was 2. Schools were very important to us, and I came out in advance of my family as I surveyed the different school options. It was really amphitheater or Catalina foothills. And admittedly, being a landscape architect, I was certainly drawn to the Catalinas, the beautiful natural environment here in Oro Valley. Outdoor recreation is important to us, and so I found a home that checked all the boxes, and we've called Oro Valley home for about 28 years.
Okay, Paul.
I moved to Oro Valley in 1994, just about 30 years ago next month. Test. Now it's on again. I moved to Oro Valley in 1994 from the San Francisco Bay Area. I had been working for the Navy at the Mare Island Naval Shipyard. And when they closed the base, I was able to get a job with the Defense Contract Management Agency down at what was then Hughes Missile Systems by the airport.
Okay. Satish?
I grew up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and ever since I was 7 years old, I just wanted to live somewhere that had a nice sunny blue sky. Kalamazoo, Michigan, you hit that 3-month stretch of gray, and I got to tell you, it's pretty dismal. I'm a dentist by trade, junior year in dental school. I played a lot of tennis growing up. Played for the University of Michigan, played on the semi-pro tour for a couple of summers before I took the easy way out and became a dentist. One of my old tennis coaches was the head tennis director at what is now the Hilton El Conquistador, but it used to be the Sheraton El Conquistador. Junior year, I flew out, met him, stayed at the El Conquistador, fell in love with the area, and met a gentleman who he was teaching who was a dentist in Tucson, and he got me in touch with a gentleman who owned 4 dental clinics, and it was strictly a handshake deal. He said, if you pass the boards, I'll guarantee you a job. A whole year went by and hadn't communicated with him, passed the boards, and called him up and said, hey, I passed the boards. He said, when are you coming out? And I said, in about 3 days. That was June 11th of 1990, and I've been here ever since.
Great. Great, thank you. My next question, how did the area look differently then? Because many of you have come a number of years ago. How did this area look different then when you moved here compared to now? Paul, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Oro Valley was just beginning to build subdivisions in 1994. Rancho Vistoso was beginning to expand. Most of the homes and subdivisions were new up there. Sun City was approaching build out. But, and so that was pretty much where it was. The town was in the process of annexing the peninsula annexation, which was the area along Lambert and up into Catalina Shadows. And that was the biggest annexation that Oro Valley had done at the time. And that's how I got to be a citizen of Oro Valley.
Mm-hmm. Great. Dr. Hiremath?
In two distinct ways. One was geographically. It was relatively smaller back then. I think now it's 36 square miles. And two, really the percentage makeup of our residents. It was predominantly seniors. It was a pretty large retirement community next to a large major metropolitan area, which obviously is the city of Tucson. But in the 90s, when I started coming here, I think that more and more people became aware there were more jobs relocating here. And what I saw at that particular time is the opportunity for Oro Valley to become more of a multi-generational, multifaceted community, but primarily in those two ways, geographically and the makeup of the residents of the town of Oro Valley.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Sure. When our family moved here, there were about 18,000 residents. Now we're nearly 50,000, so the town has grown substantially, so that's been a significant change. This library that we're sitting in, of course, wasn't here when our family moved here. If you're here relatively recently, a lot of the 4-lane divided roads were all 2-lane roads. There were just a few signalized intersections. If you can imagine, Tangerine and First Avenue was a 4-way stop when we first moved here. We've had the Ironwood Ridge High School wasn't built, of course, Painted Sky. And there were very few restaurants and other kind of retail establishments. We had a challenge even finding a place to buy gas when we first moved here. We had to, it seemed like, drive some distance to get gas. So there's been significant changes over the 30 so years that we've lived here.
This is kind of a follow-up to that. this town started with somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people, and now we're close to 50,000. What do you think are one or two or three of the reasons why people have come here? What's the attraction? Dr. Heyerman.
One, obviously, is the physical beauty of where we live. It's hard not to be mesmerized by the Catalinas when you wake up, blue sky, the colors are so vibrant. But my administration, and I have to give much kudos to then town manager Greg Caden, our vice mayor Lou Waters, Joe Hornet, Mary Snyder, Bill Rodman, Steve Solomon, Rhonda Pena. We all had a vision of, okay, how do we make Oro Valley an end destination? People were moving to begin with to the town of Oro Valley, but it was really intentional by design. There is nothing that we did that happened by accident. Job creation, keeping Ventana Medical Systems here at Innovation Park, well, now it's Roche actually, but I remember vividly sitting down with the CEO of Roche, US, and it was between Oro Valley and Indianapolis. And my sales pitch to him, we had low crime, great roads. At that particular time, we had, as Joe Winfield stated, good schools, and now we even have better schools. My sales pitch to him is, right now at this table, you know what you don't have? And he said, what? And I said, the mayor of Indianapolis sitting down here courting you. And that kind of sold it. So from Ventana Medical Systems, Innovation Park was born. I happened to be on the Arizona Bioscience Roadmap Steering Committee, appointed by Governor Ducey. And so we intentionally created a bioscience, biotech, lifestyle community, and that actually just brought more and more and more people in. But when you do that, they require a certain lifestyle. So as we started building more amenities to become more insular versus relying on the city of Tucson, it drew awareness. And I think by drawing awareness to that, we are where we are now. And it's not surprising to me that once people discover Oro Valley that they want to come down and move here.
Okay. Paul?
Significant growth came to Oro Valley in spurts. In 1994, the Hughes aircraft had just taken over General Dynamics in California, and they moved all their people out here. Most of their engineers and middle management ended up in Oro Valley. When Raytheon purchased Hughes Missile Systems, that 90% of the people that moved from the East Coast ended up in Oro Valley. And then when they acquired Texas Instruments from Dallas, we got almost 100% of the people that moved in from the Dallas area. A lot of them ended moving back to Dallas. But we had those spurts, and so that it gave us a much more diverse population than we had when I was first elected. Most of it used to be, if you were run for office, you spent your campaign up in Sun City. Now you have to spend your campaign all over town.
Okay.
I think there's a number of things that bring people here. In fact, before the meeting began, I was visiting with some of you and asking, what was it that brought you here to Oro Valley? And what I hear consistently as I talk with our residents is public safety is something that drew many people here, the town's reputation for being a safe place. I was visiting some businesses this morning, and some of our business owners were explaining how safe they feel here, especially if they have another business somewhere else in the Tucson area. That's something that's frequently referenced. As I mentioned, what certainly drew me and others is just the simple beauty of this area. The Catalina Mountains are just stunning, and folks so much appreciate just the beauty of the mountains, the opportunities for outdoor recreation. I talked to a few of you who are cyclists, the number of bike lanes and multi-use paths and natural surface trails. Just the access to the outdoors is really wonderful. In fact, I've walked out my front door and gone backpacking in the Catalinas for a couple evenings and a few days, just to give you a sense. And I don't live right on the foothills, but just having that access to the outdoors is something that's been so important. The schools, and as Satish said, they've only gotten better since we've lived here, with Basis and Lehman, Innovation Academy. So the schools are wonderful. Of course, we have the University of Arizona with the vet school as well. So all of these things, and of course, both job opportunities here in Oro Valley and in the region. So all of these things have brought people here, and you could add to that list of what brought you here.
Okay, great, thank you. There have been many individuals who've had an impact all through the history of this town, some of them in politics, but some of them in volunteerism and cultural activities, et cetera. Who would you name as some people that you think have had an impact on this community and the way it's grown? Dr. Hyrath, do you want to start?
Certainly the founding fathers who had the vision to really be autonomous and not have to rely on the city of Tucson. They wanted to control their own destiny, their own direction, their own growth, and they want to have their own identity. So you have to tip your hat to them. On a very sad note, I was very dear friends with Lauren Rood, who he and his wife was the first secretary for the first town council in Oro Valley. And Lauren, at the age of 94, recently passed away last month. And he was on the first town council. So to have him watch this growth and where Oro Valley was from deciding to incorporate to where we are now. So hats off go to that. And obviously to every single council, mayor and council that predated me. Right? Each of us, I believe, added their own vision and their own flavor to the town of Oro Valley to help grow in this direction. I was very blessed with a town council that really understood the strength of relationship building. So again, to Lou, Joe, Mary, Bill, Steve, Rhonda, I can't thank them enough. Town managers who had a certain vision as well. And last but certainly not least, town staff. I mean, the things that you enjoy to a very high level, it's not done by mayor and council. We basically let them know what needs to be done, and then we give them the financial tools as well as the physical tools to go out. And when Paul was leading Oro Valley, he had a phrase that was a community of excellence. And that's what we really strive to be. And kudos to Danny Sharp, former chief of police, who Kara Riley I know very well, was the current chief of police and love her to death. It was a philosophy of crime is going to happen, just not in Oro Valley. And honestly, that goes a long ways. It makes it so much easier on us when you don't have to worry about, gee, what part of town am I in, when it's getting dark, unlike other communities across the nation. So those are some of the individuals that I can thank, and I stand on their shoulders, and hopefully did my part to make Oro Valley a better place to live.
Great. Joe, you want to take that one?
Anticipating this question, I've reflected a lot, and of course a number of individuals have come to mind. I was struck when Dave Perry was here on the panel. He mentioned Dr. Grogan when it was Ventana, then Roche Tissue. And so that made me kind of think a little bit, again, more deeply. But admittedly, I've come back to our staff, who I think have made such a huge difference. And I'm very grateful for Chief Kara Riley, for her leadership as our chief of police. We enjoy the safe community because of Chief Riley and all of the men and women who serve our community in uniform. We can certainly be grateful to them. And they're very, I think a common thread through these different individuals is that they're very community oriented. They really think about each of us as they're serving our community. We enjoy wonderful roads and other facilities. And I think that Paul Kiesler, who's been with the town for a number of years, our Public Works Director, has been instrumental in ensuring that our roads and other infrastructure are in top condition. We had the opportunity to hire James Hazel, our magistrate, and he's just done a tremendous job. And admittedly, I suspect most of you probably not have been in our court, but if you have, you'll find Judge Hazel is incredibly fair. He holds people accountable. He's an important part of what helps keep our community a safe place. And then I'd like to mention Bayer Vela, who's been with the town for a number of years. He has been a part of the 2016, is helping with the 2026 general plan, and has made such I think a real difference in our community in terms of just ensuring that codes and zoning and so on and so forth, the various design standards. So these individuals, and of course others, but I just want to applaud the staff of the town of Oro Valley and the remarkable job they've done for us.
And you're going to hear a lot of applause for the town staff. People I thought about are a little bit earlier. Jim Cree was the founder of the town of Oro Valley, and he was a good friend. He was actually my campaign manager when I ran for council in '96 and lost, but he was also my campaign manager for my elections for mayor in '98, 2002, and 2006. Bill Adler was a community activist who participated in all activities. He was involved personally and financially. He gave the town his all. Don Chatfield was our development services director, and he was the one who set up the foundation for planning and development services and economic development in the town. Chuck Sweet was the town manager for 12 years, and he ran the town pretty tight, but he established a lot of the quality associated with the staff, and he has to be remembered for doing a lot of stuff for the town. Warner Wolf and Danny Sharp, chiefs of police. Bill Jansen was the town engineer that was really the man that worked all the angles to get us the funds to improve our roadways. He was involved in the initial rehab of Tangerine Road. He unfortunately just passed away, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And then, believe it or not, actually, Cheryl Skalski is another one who contributed quite a bit. I don't believe I'm saying this, but she was the one who pushed the town and the public into acquiring the water companies, which really established our future with respect to any growth. And it was definitely a very controversial activity, but she was able to push it through. So it's been quite a change, and there's been an awful lot of people that have contributed to the success of the town, and a lot of them are still in this room right now.
Thank you. On the question of the things that you did while you were mayor, what are several things that you're most proud of when you currently for Mayor Winfield and for the other two in your terms? What are some things that you're most proud of, and let's keep it to a few.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack. You know, there's, of course, there's a number of things, and this was a group effort, so it's never just one individual. But as a council, of course, we hired Chief Riley, who I mentioned. She's made such a significant difference in our community, hiring Judge Hazel. Addressing the police pension shortfall is something that is huge and will make such a difference in the financial welfare of our town. Investments in our parks and recreation and steam pump ranch have been significant accomplishments. The preservation of the Vistoso Trails Nature Preserve, a 202-acre site in the heart of Rancho Vistoso. The annexation of the Westward Look Resort, expansion of our multi-use path system, mixed-use development that's planned for the marketplace, working with Town West to help make that happen. And then something I've personally particularly proud of is that of making business visits on a weekly basis. It started with Dave Perry. I was out this morning visiting a dozen or so of our businesses, and that's something that I found to be very helps in terms of just communicating with our business owners, and I just found it a very valuable experience.
Hey, Jim.
Okay, we have to take just a 1-minute break. All right, we're going to come back. So the question is, what are some of the most success things that you feel happy about in your time involved? Paul, you going to take that one?
Sure. There we go. Primarily, there was a lot of things that went on during 12 years. The big one for me was infrastructure for the town. We did roadways, we did bridges, we did CAP water, we did reclaimed water. We acquired the land for the parks and the multi-use paths. We really opened up regional cooperation for in the beginning, there were people that lived in Oro Valley that would not shop in Tucson. That's how apart the two towns were. But we were able to come together and make agreements. We had the agreement with the city of Tucson for CAP water, and we made the agreement with Pima County for reclaimed water. We did a lot of commercial development and employers, the hospital, the Hilton expansion. Ventana Roche came in at that time, Sanofi, the marketplace, Oracle Crossings, and Rooney Ranch Center. So there was a lot of things going on. And finally, a lot of the things that were able to be done was because we did do a return to civility. We created policies and procedures for the town that we had not had before. And so the other thing that was really significant was changing the employee retirement system from a private type retirement system, and we added our employees to the Arizona retirement system. So there was a lot that we did that it's hard to say, but the first thing that popped out was infrastructure. We provided the basis for what we have now.
Okay.
Jim, you will have to cut me off. In a nutshell, creating a live, work, play, learn community, to be honest with you. The veterinary school happened because Ann Weaver Hart, the president of the U of A at that particular time, was looking for sites to build a veterinary school. She was looking at Phoenix, she was looking at Tucson, but she wasn't looking at Oro Valley. So I had a good relationship with her. I approached her, and she said, "There's nothing up there. I can't even get faculty to go up there." She wasn't going to make the decision for 2 years, so I said, give me 2 years. After 2 years, we created such a live, work, and play community that Oro Valley has the first veterinary school in the state of Arizona. I mean, that's unheard of. Developing the Easy Zone for Innovation Park, which is shovel-ready to get bioscience companies to come in. Annexations to Honolulu was a crown jewel for us, for arts and culture. We're talking about getting private developers to invest $130 million in our economy. For seniors, 6 senior assisted living centers went up during my administration with my council. The acquisition of the community center, 324 acres of prime Oro Valley real estate, which had 31 tennis courts, which of course was for me, because my background was tennis. Also 45 holes of golf in a building which now actually was able to be housed for parents, first time since 1974, where they did not have to drive their children out of Oro Valley for a summer camp. Concurrently with that summer camp for kids, there's a developmentally disabled summer camp that runs concurrently. So we try to teach kids who don't have developmental disabilities to respect kids that do. Oh my gosh, Purple Heart Town happened during our administration. We had the Vietnam Veterans Traveling Wall here. We created the Oro Valley Veteran Support Initiative, which was for any veteran, basically in 4 categories: health, education, employment, and we went around to all the businesses. I said, if a veteran comes into your store, please offer discounts. Lehman Academy went up. Innovation Academy, which is the first public school in the country that is K-5 that labeled themselves as a STEM school. A lot of people don't understand, for a public school, you cannot pigeonhole yourself, but we did, because that's what our bioscience, biotech employers required for their trailing spouse and their kids. Great education, great safety. Danny Sharp created the Dark House program, the Adopt a Business program. The Dark House program, believe it or not, if you guys are snowbirds, you can actually call the Oro Valley Police Department, let them know when you're going to be gone, and they will send a patrol car every single night to basically keep an eye on your residence. There are so many things that I can't even list, to be honest with you. Children's Tucson Museum, the first museum that was within 50 miles of a parent company. The development of Narana Park site with soccer fields that were professional grade. So we had New York City Red Bulls, and I can't remember the other team, that actually housed their practices here, 2 professional soccer teams. The expansion of the aquatic center that we drew international events to, and that's why I said, Jim, I'm going to cut myself off, because half the others I don't even know.
Thank you. Okay. By the way, I forgot to mention, Oro Valley has existed 50 years. Up here, you see 28 years of Oro Valley's 50 years right here in this room. Well, close to it. Joe, you're still doing your term, but over 26 years of the community here. My next question, and I found when I interview people for my book, you always ask the tougher questions at the end. Anyway, is there anything you would have liked to have done differently since you've been mayor or currently, et cetera? Joe, why don't you start with that?
Well, since I'm still currently in my term, I don't know that necessarily anything specific. There's a few things, I suppose, and I don't know that this is necessarily limited to.
Joe, I think your mic's not on there.
Okay.
There you go.
So, I guess maybe it's a frame. What are things that Oro Valley could have done differently or better? A few things that come to mind is One is just our approach to parks and recreation. So there was decisions made early on in the history of the town that parks would really fall on the responsibility of homeowner associations or developments. And what that's meant is a lot of what's referred to as mini parks or smaller parks rather than larger neighborhood parks like Riverfront Park or James D. Cree Park. So I would have liked to have seen some of parks to the north of us, north of Tangerine. There are some parks, but they're managed by HOAs, and there's pluses and minuses to that. But I'm not sure that it was necessarily in the best interest of our residents. That's my personal view. I think there's probably been some missed opportunities in terms of just recreational access and trail connectivity in the community. So those are some things that have come to mind, but I'll turn it over to Paul and Satish.
Go ahead.
This is a hard question, but there's a couple of things that are still outstanding that I would like to see done. The first was a couple of completed annexations. Is right towards the end of my terms, we were working with state land to annex the area north of Oro Valley all the way up to Pima County line. It was an annexation that was called Arroyo Grande. And we were actually within 2 weeks of closing the deal with the state when Obama got elected, and he took the governor to be his homeland security person. And at that point, we changed to a different administration that put all the annexations on hold and set up a different set of rules. And so that annexation is still outstanding, and somewhere in the ether world. The other is again the Tangerine Road annexations. That's pretty much the last undeveloped land that it borders to Oro Valley, and it would be nice to close that gap. The other thing that could be an improvement is the challenge of educating the public. There's a lot of rules that the town has to live by, not just in planning and zoning, but in how they do business and how they do a budget, how they get money and things of that sort. And now with the expanded websites and Zooms and things like that, I think the training and education of the public would be a wonderful thing that you could do something town-wide. We have the citizen academies and the police academies, but those are all restricted to what you can fit in a single room. But if you could get more people involved and educate them, it would be a lot less controversial when things come to the council for decisions.
Okay.
For me, I'm going to piggyback on Paul and talk about messaging. We did a poor job messaging, and so we left people to come to their own conclusions, and I take sole responsibility for that. See, I was raised by my father, who said, if you ever need a pat on the back, he said, here, let me show you something. Reach around and you can pat your own back. You don't need anybody else to pat your back for you. And so the community center was a great example. You know, each tennis court costs $250,000 to build. One tennis court. For $1 million, we got 31. Interest-free over 3 years. It was 1 day's operating capital every single year. We paid cash for that. So the message got out there that said that, oh, Higher Math bought a golf course because he loves to golf. He's using your taxpayer money because he loves to golf. Truth be told, I golf maybe a dozen times a year, and 8 out of those times are charity events. Again, I'm a tennis player by trade, but I didn't feel it necessary to actually go out and defend the purchase, and I should have on behalf of my council, but I didn't. So with Paul's statement about messaging, there's an old saying, the lie travels halfway around the world before the truth gets out of bed. And I think that we need to find better ways to let residents know what exactly is happening, why is it happening, how does it fit into the greater good, not only of their individual lives, but also the lifeblood of Oro Valley. And at that time, and Paul had it even worse than Joe and I do, because there wasn't really much game in town, to be honest with you. It was pretty much the Explorer newspaper, and during my administration, unfortunately, we had an editor who just wanted to dig up dirt, and there's a reason why news is all bad. And I couldn't figure this out, but in 8th grade, I asked one of my teachers, and she said, the reason news is always bad is because nobody wants to hear good news because it makes their life feel not so good. Honestly, that's the truth, right? And so that's why you don't really hear the good news, unfortunately. But I think to Paul's point, we do have the technology nowadays, and I would hope that as councils continue to move forward, that they can somehow get the message out to let people know, here's why we're doing it. Here's the truth of the matter. And really, I apologize to my council. I should have stood up and stood strong and say, no, we need to correct this, and I didn't.
Okay, thank you. We've had many stormy political meetings in this community over the years, going way back. Actually, to the beginning, there were many stormy meetings just creating the town in the first place. And we've had a lot of citizen involvement. How do you characterize the impact of citizen involvement? Has it been good, bad? What's good, what's bad? Paul, do you want to start?
Sure. The citizen involvement has helped make the town decisions better. New ideas and options and alternatives are presented. Unfortunately, most of the time, the public doesn't get involved until it's too late in the process to make changes. That's step number one. And the negative part of it is that the only thing you hear about is the negativity. We don't blow our own horn and showing how well we've performed and how well the staff has done, and look around and see what the town looks like today. It is a wonderful community.
Okay.
For me, I don't view things as good or bad. All residents have a right to be single issue focused, because that's exactly what they come to these meetings for. That's what their opinions are for. But my mandate to my council is, look, our singular viewpoints have no place on a council. We have no place on a dais. We have to govern for the whole community. So for us, it becomes a little bit challenging when people who can be singular don't really understand, okay, how do we create a comprehensive community? So for me, I use an easy example. One is, if somebody likes vanilla ice cream and I like chocolate, no matter what I'm going to tell that person, I'm not going to get them to like chocolate. But we have to agree that we all like ice cream. And our council's responsibility was, we take our singular predilections and we leave them out the door. So that's why you see a lot of the things that went up during our administration. Again, the vet school is a great example, all the development, every rezoning. Under Paul's administration, he actually created the environmentally sensitive land ordinance, and it got ratified on my administration. What that means is that if you're a developer and you have 100 acres and you can put one house per acre, well, we value open space so much that we say when it comes to a rezoning, you still get the 100 homes, but put it on 50 acres, leaving 50 acres open in perpetuity. Our administration with rezoning was able to save 480 acres of open space in perpetuity. And that's an incredible amount that really nobody realizes. They just talk about development. So I think going back to the original question, Jim, which is it good, is it bad? We take into account everybody's suggestion, but sometimes their suggestions don't fit into a larger picture serving the greater good.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah. You know, our community is known for resident participation. So I have to applaud each of you.
Can you turn it off again? There, go ahead.
I have to applaud each of you for your interest in our community. And there's really a variety of ways that the citizens have made, my belief, very positive. I mean, we just have to look at our community to see the positive impact that you've had. And one of the important outlets for that is the development of our general plans. Since our family's lived here, there's been the 2006, 2016, and we're in the process of developing the 2026 general plan. So I encourage you to go to ovpathforward.com. There was a survey. In fact, you've probably seen the signs around town. I don't know if it's closed or not. 15th, thank you. So if you haven't taken that survey, this is just one opportunity to let your voice be heard. But the general plan is really, it's very important to our family, to our community, because it's really a blueprint for the next 10 years. It lays out the community's vision, guiding principles, goals, policies, actions. It's really, and when you look at our community, it's really a reflection of that general plan and your voice as to what's important to you. So you make an incredibly positive difference. And I know it can be frustrating at times to be involved, but I encourage you to participate, to let your voice be heard, and go to ovpathforward.com. This is a great time to jump on board if you haven't.
Great, thank you. In my research, I found that virtually all the great disputes in this town since the 80s have related to land use and developing the community. And my question, I'll start with Dr. Hiremath. Why do you think that is, and what could be done about it?
Again, education, right? If the majority, it's, and I'm one of them. I'm equally guilty. You know, I move here to a beautiful community. I don't want anybody else coming in. Right? And I want more cars, and I want more people to contend with. So one, I think it's really, being a little bit defensive and not really understanding the greater concept of a community. But messaging goes a long ways. You know, when I spoke with Roche Ventana, they said that, we need more mobile units, and I'll put mobile units in the sense of apartments, condos, townhomes, because their workforce is so global that they used to buy 8 or 10 or 12 or 20 homes for their employees. But their employees, on average, stay here 6 months. And they can't actually have a situation where their employee has to figure out how to liquidate a house in 6 months. So that's why you started to see more multi-living facilities that go up. Same thing with the Arizona Vet School. When I talked to President Hart, she said, our students aren't going to buy homes, so you got to be kidding me. So all of a sudden, more multi-living facilities go up. But then it comes down to, well, we don't want any more apartments. Well, they're riffraff. They're whatever you want to call it, right? And they have to understand that providing living quarters for a viable either student body or a viable workforce, and the Hilton's a great example, that serve us and serve our community is paramount. And it's those kind of things that I think that we have to do. Again, it goes back to messaging. How do you get the message out to let people know it's not just, oh, a developer called me up and wants to put up apartments and I said yes, which some people think that happened, right? But it's just not that way. So again, I'm going to beat this to the ground. It's messaging about the direction that we need to be heading in order to create that live, work, play, and learn environment.
Okay.
We all live in a wonderful community, and we all want it to remain wonderful. We're here, and we don't like change. We want to close the doors behind us and not see change. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Things evolve. The town grows. And one of the things that I learned or did very early in my career in civics was to compare a town to the life of a person. A town starts out young as a baby and needs to learn lots of things. It then grows into its teenager years where it is expanding, is looking at all sorts of different options and gets into a little bit of trouble every once in a while. And then as it continues to mature, things settle in and you're stuck pretty much where you are. We, the town, are, I would consider being in our late 20s right now. We still have a long way to go, and there's going to be lots of opportunities for the future. But we have to recognize that things do change. And one of our disadvantages is that Arizona still believes that it's the wild, wild west out here and is firmly set into private property rights and the individuals, so that we are unable to look at things as a community versus as individuals.
I think I think there's a number of things that have kind of contributed to some of the disputes over land use and development. I think one thing that has contributed to that is that developers have contributed to political candidates to campaigns, and I took a position that I would not take donations from developers. I mean, for me personally, that's been a huge and important decision. So I think that has negatively influenced land use decision-making. I think there's just sometimes a misunderstanding. So for example, our family, we live in Catalina Shadows off of Palisades and First Avenue. For 20 plus years, the land that was fronting adjacent to First Avenue and Palisades that was vacant, my neighbors became accustomed to that vacant land. And I would have to explain to them, well, that land is owned, it has entitlements, it's going to be developed eventually. But there's this notion that when there's vacant land that it's not going to be developed. And so there's just that misunderstanding that land is privately owned, it has entitlements, it's going to be developed. But in fairness, for individuals that do their homework and they look at the zoning and they buy a piece of property and they see that the property adjacent to them is zoned in a particular way, and then only to come find out that it's now up to be rezoned, that zoning changed, that naturally gets people unhappy, upset, because they bought a piece of property thinking that the land adjacent to their property was going to remain whatever it was zoned, whether that was for residential or commercial. So that can be a frustrating experience when land is now going to be possibly be rezoned. So I can certainly appreciate the angst and the frustration about that, but nevertheless, that is a possibility, and so something that individuals have to keep in mind. I think the other thing is that our residents, our average median age is higher than, say, Marana and Tucson. So it's a little north of 50. And as I talk with our residents and constituents, I mean, you are folks that this isn't your first rodeo, right? And you've lived in a variety of places, and you chose Oro Valley because of the quality of living. And you've lived places where you've experienced different types of housing and land use that you found was not beneficial to the community. And so you fight hard for a quality of life that you want to continue to have for the remainder of the time that you live in this community. So I think that also kind of creates some of these disputes over land use.
Great, thank you. I think you're hearing some good analysis of the community of long experience here. We're going to open it up to questions. If you do have a question, I ask you to stand up and say the question clearly, and then I'll repeat it so we have it recorded. All set. Please stand and ask your question.
Hello, my name is Brett Sadovnik. I've been a resident of Oro Valley since 1998. And I ran a business nearby, successfully ran hundreds of millions of dollars. And I don't think what I did compared to the difficulty of being a public servant. So first, I'd like to thank the three of you for your service. Second, I'd like to know what the heck made you want to do that?
So the question is, why did you want to get into this?
Yeah.
Dr. Howermath, why don't you start?
Well, my dental office opened in 1992, and in 2008, I was noticing that on average, there was 1.5 of my patients who either they themselves or somebody they knew were either losing their jobs or losing their homes. And I just felt that there's got to be something local government can do where our statistics of foreclosures and job losses don't mimic state or national numbers. I threw my hat in the ring, won by 30 votes, and that's what propelled me to actually throw my hat in the ring, was just to serve people.
Okay. Paul?
That was a good question. I got involved in the almost right after I moved into Oro Valley, and when the annexation occurred, and the property next to my home was going to be developed as 428 apartments. I got involved, and we fought that development, and we ended up losing a lawsuit with the town to try and stop the zoning that was going to occur. But we were fortunate enough to delay the project long enough to make it so that the apartments were no longer a necessity at that time. And the town eventually bought the property, and that now is Riverfront Park. So that that sort of got me involved in the development of the town and looking at how it was going on, and as a systems engineer, looking for ways to do it better. And so that's sort of what got me into it. And when it came to be electing for mayor, I ran to try and help the development occur in a better fashion than it was at the time.
So I would say that I'm kind of naturally a community-oriented person. I like people. I like serving others. Because of my work with the National Park Service, I've worked with elected officials at all levels of government. And admittedly, that took a little bit of I think sometimes we put elected officials on a pedestal. And what I saw was that elected officials were just like all of us, just individuals that were wanting to serve their communities. My work here in Arizona, working for the Rivers and Trails program, took me around the state of Arizona, working with communities much like Oro Valley. And naturally, I'd see things in communities that I wanted to see in my own community. And so really it was a desire to serve, to hopefully make my community a better place for everyone.
But is that why you ran, though? The specific question, why did you run?
Why did I run? Well, I ran because I wanted to serve my community and make it a better place.
Okay. All right, yes.
My name's Grady Peeler. I've been here about 8 years. This question's going to raise some eyebrows on you. Are you familiar with the Casitas bill that's making its way through the House and the Senate?
Yeah.
The Casitas bill has passed the Senate and is in the House now. And the point of the Casitas bill is it's a small house in Spanish, of course. And the bill is to remove all zoning restrictions that you're able to make at local government level. And by the way, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's enjoying bipartisan support. And the net effect of it is you can put a small house, could be 300 feet. You as a zoning group will be unable to do anything with the square footage. You can't require a kitchen. You can't require a boundary setback. You have nothing to say about these casitas that are being put there. They don't have to conform to the existing roof line or appearance of the house. This is the bill. It's Senate Bill 1415, which is passed, and House Bill 2720, which is in committee. My question to you is, what do you think of this? If you're not in favor of it, you may want to do something about it.
So the question is about if you've been reading in the Star, the state is considering a change in zoning to allow casitas, little houses, to be built in your backyard. Mayor Winfield, you're kind of closest to this right now.
Yeah, there's been a couple bills actually that have tried to remove local control. And I would oppose anything that would take away local control. I mean, that goes back to why Oro Valley was first founded, was to preserve local control. There was a bill that was actually passed that has similar implications that we've written a letter to the governor asking her to veto it. So this is the legislature's attempt to address the housing shortage, and so they're looking to take away our local control. So I oppose it.
Any other comments?
I'm glad I'm not mayor.
And this is something that is typical in government, where you have local government, which is your town government, then you have the county government, and then you have the state on top of that. And each one of those organizations wants to control the destiny of what they represent. And so that while local government is the stuff closest to you that has the most impact on the individual, and in my opinion should be the one that's listened to, and is typically, this is something that back in my day, we spent an awful lot of time up at the state capitol talking to our legislatures, lobbying the other legislatures, and trying to educate them as to why cities and towns are different from and the needs of the cities and towns are very different from the needs of the state.
All right, any other questions? Yes.
Rick Bergen. We moved to Arizona, Tucson, about 40 years ago. 5 years ago, we moved to Oro Valley. There's no going back to the east side or the county. It's just far superior up here. It's just, my wife and I just love it, you know, between the biking and the amenities, and the roads are nice, and everything is great. I did have one question though. I heard somewhere that Oro Valley may build out someday. Is that, you know, where there's no more land available, it's gonna be totally built out? Have you,
So the question is Oro Valley about to be, eventually to be built out? You go ahead, sure.
Short answer is yes. Long answer is yes. So we're basically landlocked. And that's the reason for strategic annexations. You know, just kind of government 101, for the most part, every penny that comes to government is through some form of revenue. Here in the town of Oro Valley, we basically had 7. Property tax, which we don't have. And I'm not sure if everybody's aware of that. Town of Oro Valley does not carry its own property tax. We don't have a commercial lease tax, and we don't have renter's tax. So there's basically 4 revenue sources that we have in order to generate revenue. Utility tax, which is 100% borne by the Oro Valley resident and the Oro Valley business. So that's a non-starter for our administration. The second one is sales tax, which includes state shared revenue. And then you have bed tax, and then you have construction sales tax. So we were averaging, in addition to preserving 480 acres over 8.5 years, we were averaging $6.5 million. We had the Oro Valley Music Festival, we had the Arizona Distance Classic, the L Tour had their start here, and I think it still has their start here. But every time you can get a resident or a non-resident to come in and spend money in your community, then that's 1 penny less that we have to spend for things like public safety, roadways, parks and recreation. So yes, Oro Valley was probably about 85–90% built out, and that's the reason for annexation. That's why Tohono Chua was so attractive to us, because it's an end destination globally. It's not just, you know, nationally. So when people come visit our town, they stay in our hotels, they eat in our restaurants, it actually defrays your cost. Right? And so our administration, we were up to about 48 cents out of every dollar that was being put into our coffers from a non-resident. But yes, we are landlocked and built out.
Mayor Winfield?
Yeah, build out is certainly a reality. Right now, the forecast is there's enough housing stock through about 2040 if there were no annexations. So Mayor Loomis mentioned the 880 acres to the west, which is State Land Department, and then to the north. The problem to the north is water. Water is a challenge for that particular annexation to the west, but the challenge to the west is that would probably that area would probably serve Marana more than it would serve the town of Oro Valley, because you have the commercial development there at Thornydale and Tangerine, and likely if that area was to be annexed, it would be largely housing, which would provide some revenue in the short term, but not necessarily in the long term. So, I mean, even if those areas were annexed, at some point we're going to be landlocked. So if you look at Tempe, Mesa, some of those areas, then you start looking at redevelopment and so on and so forth. So about 2040, we have housing available.
Okay. Paul, did you want to say something on that?
I could say a whole bunch about that, but I won't. I want to thank you all for coming here and for listening to us and being such a great audience. And I also want to thank the Historical Society for sponsoring this event. And Jim, you've done a wonderful job being the MC. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Please thank them. We're videotaping this with the idea of having a record for the future. So we're hoping that this will be either online, but it will definitely be preserved, because there may never be a chance like this again. I mean, the 50th anniversary is a big deal.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming.